Hi students, this is a video for those of you who have not started assignment number 2 and for those of you who need some extra help. I think that I did not scaffold or provide enough support for you for this, so I'm going to do this now. This is your last chance, okay? So if you are missing papers, this is going to help you, all right? You can get this assignment number 2 done, and hopefully I'm going to show you step by step how to do it. I'm going to make several videos so it's not overwhelming. Okay, so first I want to show you how it is that you can actually get to this. So if you go to week 10, I put haven't started assignment number 2 yet. This page is for you. I am going to click on that. And if you come here, I actually put down the tutorial that has the Ben Adler's banning plastic bags is great for the world, right? And if you have that, I read it out loud, I go over it, and the tutorial's there, so that will help you. I encourage you to go over that. If it is too long, because I think it's 20 minutes, 25 minutes, go ahead and watch it in 1.5 times speed, and then just stop it in those parts that you need. The one thing I did not go over is Charles J. Moore's Choking the Oceans with Plastic. So right now I'm going to go ahead and read that, and I'm going to go over it with you, okay? If you scroll down on this page, you will see these are all of the information that came from the instructor book about these essays. So they answer the questions from the book, and it can give you some ideas on more of the things that you might need to do and, for your paper. But I'm going to actually go step by step and try to help you. All right, here we go. Charles J. Moore's Choking the Oceans with Plastic. There are other ways to get to this. If you need to, you can go to the actual book, but here it is. Choking the Oceans with Plastic. Charles J. Moore is an oceanographer and founder of Algalita Marine Research and Education Institute in Long Beach, California, an organization that works to educate about plastic pollution in the oceans and its connection to our increased reliance on and consumption of plastics. In 1997, while sailing across the Pacific Ocean, he and his crew discovered the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a giant 670,000 square mile expanse of plastic debris floating in the ocean. This op-ed was first published in 2014 in the New York Times. The world is awash in plastic. It's our cars and our carpets. We wrap it around the food we eat and virtually every other product we consume. It has become a key lubricant of globalization, but it is choking our future in ways that most of us are barely aware. I have just returned with a team of scientists from 6 weeks at sea conducting research in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, one of 5 major garbage patches drifting in the oceans north and south of the equator at the latitude of our great terrestrial deserts. Although it was my 10th voyage to the area, I was utterly shocked to see the enormous increase in the quantity of plastic waste since my trip in 2009. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight this. If you're reading along, you might want to do that. So we know right here that it's talking about an increase, right? So we do something that we might need to put in our paper later on. Plastics of every description, from toothbrushes to tires to unidentifiable fragments, too numerous to count, floated past our marine research vessel, Algalita, for hundreds of miles without end. We even came upon a floating island bolstered by dozens of plastic buoys used in oyster aquaculture that has solid areas you could walk on, right? So, I mean, we're talking about like an entire island of plastic. Plastics are now one of the most common pollutants of ocean waters worldwide. Pushed by winds, tides, and currents, plastic particles form with other debris into large, swirling, glutinous accumulation zones known to oceanographers as gyres, which comprise as much as 40% of the planet's ocean surface, roughly 25% of the entire Earth. Okay, so maybe we might need this, right? Okay, so we know it's the common pollutant of ocean waters. Okay, no scientist, environmentalist, entrepreneur, national or international government agency has yet been able to establish a comprehensive way of recycling the plastic trash that covers our land and inevitably blows and washes down to the sea. All right, so this is a very important idea, right? There is no agency that has found a way to recycle. These things are not being recycled. In a 2010 study of the Los Angeles and San Gabriel rivers, my colleague and I estimated that some 2.3 billion pieces of plastic, from polystyrene foam to tiny fragments and pellets, had flowed from Southern California's urban centers into its coastal waters in just 3 days of sampling. Okay, so this is our area. So this is something that we definitely should care about, right? The deleterious consequences of humanity's plastic footprint are many, some known and some yet to be discovered. Okay, so we know that they're going to talk about that there are many different effects, right? Or consequences. Let's go ahead and put consequences. We know that plastics biodegrade exceptionally slowly, breaking into tiny fragments in a centuries-long process. We know that plastic debris entangles and slowly kills millions of sea creatures, that hundreds of species mistake plastic for their natural food, ingesting intoxicants that cause liver and stomach abnormalities in fish and birds, often choking them to death. We know that one of the main bait fish in the ocean, the lanternfish, eats copious quantities of plastic fragments, threatening their future as a nutritious food source to the tuna, salmon, and other pelagic fish we consume, as to the increasing amount of synthetic chemicals unknown before 1950 that we now carry in our bodies. So here we go. We know that this is a serious problem, right? We suspect that more animals are killed by vagrant plastic waste than even climate change, a hypothesis that needs to be seriously tested. So one of the things right here that's not really being said, but is still being said, is that we need to do more studies, right, also. During our most recent voyage, we studied the effects of pollution, taking blood and liver samples from fish as we searched invasive species and plastic-linked pollutants that cause protein and hormone abnormalities. While we hope our studies will yield important contributions to science, they address but a small part of the broader issue. The reality is that only by preventing synthetic debris, most of which is disposable plastic, from getting into the ocean in the first place, will a measurable reduction in the ocean's plastic load be accomplished, right? So we know what he wants. We have to stop this, right? Cleanup schemes are legion, but have never been put into practice in the garbage patches. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in the United States supports environmental groups that remove debris from beaches, but the sieve-like skimmers they use, no matter how technologically sophisticated, will never be able to clean up remote garbage gyres. There's too much turbulent ocean dispersing and mixing the mess. So look, we know that the skimmers, no matter what we do, it is still not going to be enough. The problem is compounded by the aquaculture industry, which uses enormous amounts of plastic in its floats, nets, lines, and tubes. The most common floats and tubes I found in the deep ocean and on Hawaiian beaches, come from huge sea urchin and oyster farms, like the one that created the oyster buoy island we discovered. Those buoys were torn from their moorings by the tsunami that walloped Japan on March 11, 2011. But no regulatory remedies exist to deal with tons of plastic equipment lost accidentally and in storms, so there's no regulations on this. Government and industry organizations purporting to certify sustainably farmed seafood, despite their dozens of pages of standards, fail to mention gear that is lost and floats away. Governments which are rightly concerned with the depletion of marine food sources should ensure that plastic from cages, buoys, and other equipment used for aquaculture does not escape into the waters, right? So governments aren't ensuring this. But in the end, the real challenge is to combat an economic model that thrives on wasteful products and packaging and leaves the associated problem of cleanup costs. Right, so this is definitely important. We know that this is an economic problem, right? The entire economy runs on the fact that we have wasteful products and wasteful packaging that we can just throw away, right? How many things do you just throw away? For example, if you think about 100, 150 years ago, someone had one comb, one brush, one or two things to pin their hair back, right? Like actual like silver combs, perhaps. And those things were kept virtually for your entire life, right? But now, how many combs, brushes, clips, scrunchies, rubber bands, or for men who, how many gels, how many, shampoos, containers, all of those things still exist today, right? And so our entire economy is based on the fact that we're going to continue to buy those things and throw them away. So the paper continues, changing the way we produce and consume plastics is a greater challenge than reining in our production of carbon dioxide. So we know that this is a huge problem. Again, now plastics are a nightmare to recycle. So one of the major claims here, one of the major things that they're going to talk about is that recycling does not happen, right? They are very hard to clean. They can melt at low temperatures, so impurities are not vaporized. It makes no difference whether synthetic polymer like polyethylene is derived from petroleum or plants. It is still a persistent pollutant. Biodegradable plastics exist, but manufacturers are quick to point out that marine degradability does not mean marine disposable. Right? So we know that all of these other options that people are trying are also a problem. Scientists in Britain and the Netherlands have proposed to cut plastic pollution by an institution of a circular economy. The basic concept is that products must be designed with end-of-life recovery in mind. They propose a pre-cycling premium to provide incentives to eliminate the possibility that a product will become waste, right? So they want this to actually start stopping the problem right before it even begins. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight circular economy, even though it's probably not the best thing there. In the United States, especially in California, the focus has been on so-called structural controls, such as covering gutters and catch basins with screens. This has reduced the amount of debris flowing down rivers to the sea. Activists around the world are lobbying for bans on the most polluting plastics, the bottles, bags, and containers that deliver food and drink. Many have been successful. In California, nearly 100 municipalities have passed ordinances banning throwaway plastic bags, and the Senate is considering a statewide ban. Until we shut off the flow of plastic to the sea, the newest global threat to our Anthropocene age will only get worse. Okay, so we know that structural controls is one way that he proposes, right? Get that? And then another way that he proposes is bans on polluting plastics. Okay. I'm just going to very quickly, if you're done with this, you can move on, but I kind of wanted to just look at some of these. We already have the answers in your text, but according to Charles J. Moore, what dangers do plastic garbage in its many forms pose to the world? How widespread does research reveal the problem of plastic garbage in the world's waterways to be? Right, and he gives very specific numbers here, but we know that this is a gigantic problem, right, that not only affects humans or fish, or it affects everyone, right? It's in the entire food chain. It's clogging our entire oceans. It's going to affect all of those things. And that would be an answer that you want to think about. It says, pick one sentence from the essay that you think embodies its main argument and explains why you think so. I think this is a really good activity because that's sort of what you're going to do. Let's see. If I was going to pick one sentence, I think maybe even the last sentence, I think you could make that work, that until we shut off the flow of plastic to the sea, the newest global threat to our Anthropocene age will only get worse. That's something. What's some of the other things that you might see? The reality, by preventing that. I mean, that sort of covers everything. mean, you could go with something like plastics are now one of the most common pollutants of ocean waters worldwide, but I don't think that that really talks about the depth and danger, right? I have not gone over these questions before, so I'm just doing this offhand right now. A key strategy in effective argumentative writing is for authors to raise possible objections to their own positions, what this book calls naysayers, and what you are going to do in assignment number 2, and to respond to those views. In this short essay, Moore does not raise or respond to possible objections to his argument. Think of 2 or 3 possible naysayers and respond to each of them from the author's perspective. So I'm not going to do this, but you are actually doing this, right? I kind of got the assignment from the text. It's very similar idea, right? Think about how Adler sort of is a naysayer. He's saying, no, you're actually not thinking about how there are other climate change and pollutants problems by banning all plastics, right? So that's one area. Other naysayers might say that, hey, because the entire economy rests on this, we cannot just say, let's ban it. So that's another thing that you might want to consider. And he does kind of mention this, but he does not put as much accountability as is necessary on the corporations that continue to produce these things. Also doesn't talk about how a lot of people maybe don't want those kinds of bans on government control. So there's all different kinds of things that you could think of to say. And it says, so what, who cares? How does Moore make clear to readers why his topic matters? Or if you don't think he does, how might he do so? I think there's a lot of so what, who cares, right? I mean, talking about hormone disruption, talking about so many, that there's not going to be enough food, for from the oceans, talking about how our world is basically going to end, right in his last sentence, that it's only going to get worse. That he definitely makes us want to care. And it says do some more research. We're not going to actually look at that one. Okay, so hopefully this helps you. I know this is a longer video, but go ahead and I hope you watched it in 1.5 time. And I hope you have a better idea of what this article looks like and what you can do with it.